আপনার স্ক্রিন তো দেখা যাইতেছে না।
হ্যাঁ, আমি শেয়ার করতেছি, give me 1 second. Okay, so can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So as I said in my first orientation session, it is broken down into 24 sessions, and each of those sessions actually gonna talk about specific thing, and I'm only gonna show you, or I'm only gonna teach you whatever is needed to do your job, or whatever is needed to get through the interview. So any questions or anything that is kind of you are not sure about, feel free to ask. We also have WhatsApp chat group. You also can post any question, and me myself and Mashek Bhai also going to respond it. So that's how it's gonna work. So let me. So everybody, did you guys try to log into your account and go to course and then that um, page? Did you guys try going there?
I didn't actually.
Okay. How about you, Shobuz Bhai? Did you try? I think you try করছেন?
ওই একটা ট্রাই করা হয়নি।
Okay. Make sure you try, because that's how you will get to your course topic plus session, lecture notes, everything will be there.
Okay.
And I created separate profile for each of you, means everybody should have access to everyththing that I'm going to show. So the first session, whatever I show you on the last quiz step, those are actually open for the public, everybody can see it. But session 2 until session 24, that will be specific for whoever is going to take the course.
Okay.
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 So basically I'm gonna just kind of quickly go over the session section. So the section 1, it will talk about, we're gonna talk about introduction to software testing, then SDLC lifecycle. Then we'll talk about some different methodology. So let's kind of focus on section 1. So another thing, most of the time in the interview, I would say maybe 40% of the interview question will come from these areas. So just think about it.
40% you said?
40%. 40%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So think about how crucial those topics are. So if you're able to understand those topics well, if you're able to answer those questions that will be given to your homework, I think that will be maybe make you ready for real job interview. So that's why I always tell people that don't just kind of go over the session notes. You may have to do additional research. So since this is our first session, means second session, so let me tell you how it's gonna roll out. So every day, let's say we have 1.5 hour session, right? First half an hour will be your homework assignment. I'll be going over your homework assignment. Maybe I'll call out each of you. I'm gonna tell you, can you share your screen? And I hope that everybody knows how to share the screen using Zoom, right?
Okay.
So you can share your screen. You can show me whatever answer you put in for your question, and maybe I can ask you some random question kind of related to this topic or question. So you have to be able to tell me. So that's when I expect you to kind of answer me in English, because that's most of the time interview question will come from. So you have to kind of prepare yourself to tell those answer. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So first half an hour, homework assignment, homework question, or any question that I kind of went over or go over in the previous session. The next 1 hour will be lecture notes. So I'll just go over new topics, and you can ask me questions throughout the session, not a problem. But it's more like interactive type of session you'll get to see. Any question? Bobby, any question? Anybody has any question?
No, it's good now.
Okay, very good, very good. So I always expect in my last batch, to be honest, people are asking me a lot of questions. I expect you to stop me anytime if you don't understand anything and ask me a question. Not a problem. I always love to answer them. Okay, so in today's session, so this is more like high level what we'll cover in today's session, right? So we'll cover what is software testing. So this one of the one of the first question you may want to know, what is software testing? We'll know what is software, why testing, Why testing means like, why you have to perform testing, right?
Yeah.
And what is the necessity of testing? I mean, what we need, why we need to do this testing? What is the significance to it? Who does testing? When to start testing? When to stop? So those are very basic type of question that everybody wants to know, right?
Mhm.
Because let's say you want to learn something, right? You need to know why you have to learn and what is the purpose of learning. How are you going to apply your learnings to your job skills or job interview. So those are like basic type of question that everybody want to know, right?
Yes.
And this is a good interview type of topic: software quality control, quality assurance, what is test case, um, and different roles in software development process. Means when you start working in a company, so let's say you work for Verizon or you work for like AT&T, any of those company. When you go into a company, you'll get to know various people, right? They will have different designations. Somebody will be project manager. Somebody will be like Scrum Master, system analyst, developer. So if you don't know what their role is or what their job function, it may going to hard for you to know how it will like kind of involve you, right? Because if you don't know like all those different roles, you may gonna ask question to the wrong person. So we'll just try to cover those things as well. And project domain. So I know the last session we talked about something domain. So domain is nothing but specific business area. So we'll just talk about some very kind of significant business area. Means like where most of the jobs are. So right now healthcare is booming sector. So if you have good healthcare domain knowledge means you need to know how the business works in healthcare. So that's something I'll kind of talk to you throughout this course. There's some finance domain. Finance means banking, like, right? If you kind of
Yeah.
do any sort of transaction with Bank of America, Chase, or any other financial institution, that will fall under what? Financial domain. Mortgage domain. Let's say you are taking a mortgage from any of the bank. So there are like some bank who does only mortgage. So if you work for any of those companies, so you're probably gonna fall under mortgage domain. And same thing with the telecom. So telecom means what? Verizon, AT&T, Charter, or other domains. So that's something we're gonna go over, okay? So I'm gonna come back to the homework assignment later. Let's kind of start our um, lectures. So yeah, so this is session 2. Um, So first question we have, what is software and what is the use of it, right? So if anybody, let's say like, you go and talk to your friend, and if your friend asks you what is software and what you are doing or what you are learning and why you need to learn. So you may have to kind of answer them, right? So
Yes.
same thing, when you kind of know this answer, is very simple, like simple, easy statement. It's not very complicated. You can like answer them in one single sentence, right? So you just have to kind of tell them what is that. So what is software? This is my definition, by the way. This is a list of functions. So function, what is function? Function is nothing but an option, right? List of option, list of feature. You guys know the feature, right?
Yes.
What is feature? What is different, like capability of software?
Types or
Yeah,
something.
types, exactly, correct. So list of function or list of option performs certain actions. So action means certain things. So let's say you have Apple iPhone, right? So when you like go to message option, right? When you go to message and when you start typing message, you are basically focusing on that message application or message. The message can be considered as an application itself because it has a lot of options. You can able to send like picture message, text message. You can able to do many things in just the message application, right? So
Mm.
think that way. So you can able to do various thing in that message application. You can
Mm.
able to send message. You can able to send picture message and do many things. And in and those actions, so whatever you are doing behind the scenes, something else is happening, right? Something else is making those things working. So what is that? So let's say whatever you are seeing, so whatever you're seeing in the front end means like in this example your message application, but in the back end means like behind the scene there's something else making this to work. So what is that? So this is your programming language. Okay. So programming language, we'll have some kind of discussion what is programming language and all in later. But programming language, as I said before, it is kind of heart of an application. Means with this language, the software only can able to understand the programming language, specific language. There are various programming language: C sharp, C++, Java, JavaScript. There's various programming language. So depending on which software you are working or testing, it will vary. You don't need to know programming language to do your testing, because what you are testing, you are just testing the behavior of the application. Behavior means whether you can able to send message or whether you can able to receive message. You are just basically observing the behavior. Make sense?
Yes.
So that means whenever you are testing something, you can able to only tell, okay, so based on this information, I'm expecting that when a user or when any of my friend will send me a message, I should receive a notification or something. That's what it should happen based on what? Based on some information which was given to you by business analyst or somebody else. So you are just testing based on the information they gave it to you, right?
Yes.
So do you need to know programming language for that? No, right? You don't need to know, because you are just kind of observing the behavior based on the information. So there is different way of testing it, right? You probably can test something maybe two of your friends sending the same message same time, and you want to see how that will show up in your message application, right? So those are different way of testing. So you can think about different scenarios, different way of testing, and kind of see whether it is working or not. Okay. So
Yes.
this is what is software and what is software testing. Does it make sense? Is it kind of simpler explanation?
No, it's good, I think.
It's good. Okay. So Bhabhi, do you get it? What?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
So it's like a whole system, we can say software, right?
Yes, it can be a whole system or it can be a subsystem. So
Okay.
subsystem means, the example I gave you, the message, right?
Message of
Message is an application. But if you say whole system, it can be iOS. Means it's
Okay.
like Apple's operating system. This is the whole system. So it kind of varies, depending on where you are using the system word. It can subsystem, it can be sub application, main application, but the whole idea is it has to perform specific action, and what is making this thing to work? Programming language. That's what it is. Okay. So what is the use of it? I think this is a very common thing. Without software, computers would be useless. For example, without your internet browser, you could not surf the internet or read this page without an operating system. The browser could not run on your computer. So what is browser? So you guys know the browser, right? Like Internet Explorer, Firefox. So those call browser. So if somebody asks you which browser you are testing with, what are you gonna answer? You're gonna answer Internet Explorer, Firefox, Mozilla. Those are kind of interview type of
So
questions.
Safari is a browser as well, right?
Which one?
Safari
Okay.
or
Yes,
Google Chrome.
yes, they are browser. They are an application. Exactly. So Safari, Google Chrome, then Firefox. They called internet browser.
Okay.
And IE, Internet Explorer, is also a browser. Okay. So
Mm.
without the browser, you cannot surf in internet. Means you cannot go to internet, you cannot go here, or you cannot able to go to my website, right? Without the browser. So you see that to do that, you need an application, right? So this is also called software. So another thing, just you guys can write it down. Software and application are same thing. Okay. Those words are same thing. Don't get confused. If somebody say which application you work on, they're basically talking about which software is that. Okay. So always kind of keep that in mind.
So the short form for application is app, right? That's how we
Yeah,
can say.
yeah, app, exactly. Short form is app. Like if somebody said like, have you worked on Facebook software?
Mhm.
They kind of ask you those kind of question, like,
Yeah.
purposely. They want to know, like, whether you understand what the software and application is,
Mhm.
So it's kind of same synonym. Okay. Okay. So you guys know what is the use of it, right? Without the software, why we need to have the software, right? Okay. So next we will know example of software and application. So if somebody tell you, can you tell me some of those software that can help, like that can be like known as operating system, which operating system you are kind of familiar with? This is a very common question. Or what type of like internet browser you have, or what type of movie player do you have in your laptop, right?
Mhm.
So you can say that I have Windows Media Player
Mhm.
and operating system. You can say that I use like Mac operating system, Windows XP, Windows 7. So those are called operating system. So and if they ask you about movie player, you can talk about like Windows Media Player. So those are for your basic understanding.
Do you have
So
any other example for movie player? Except
like there are a bunch of. I mean, I think
Netflix.
FSEC or something else was there, and there's also Jet Audio or Jet Video. There were a bunch of there, but I think most common is like Windows Media Player. That's a very common one. But
Mhm.
if you yeah, since you asked this question, maybe you can like Google it and you can find a bunch of other software.
Or Netflix can be is a software, right?
No, it's not. It's
No,
not.
no, no, no. I'm sorry. It's not
It's
software.
it's
It's an
it's a,
application.
it's an application, right?
Yes, yes.
The movie player, those are like software that is installed in your computer. Okay,
Oh, okay,
those
okay.
are the one that installed, like internet browser. This is a, like, if you can see it, look at that. This Safari is installed
Yeah,
in my
yes.
laptop. Same thing, this one is installed in my laptop.
Mhm.
There is some application, most of the time web application. The web application is where we have to go to website and kind of see how that web application is working. So those are different. Okay, in this case, the software we're talking about what is installed in your PC. Same thing here. Presentation, you use Microsoft PowerPoint, so the Microsoft Word, Excel, those different application, they are also called as application or software.
Mm.
Okay, so you just have to kind of familiar with different software or different types of tools that you have installed in your machine. Any questions, Shobuj Bhai or Fabi? Any?
No.
No.
Okay. It's very common. It's very basic. It's not even hard thing to understand. Okay, so let's talk about key roles in development process. So
Okay,
there's
I'm sorry, I have a
yeah,
question. So they will ask us whenever we'll go to interview, then they will ask us about different types of software, right?
they're not gonna ask you different types of
But
software. They probably ask you which operating system you are familiar with. So it's like another way of saying it, like which software you have installed in your laptop or which software
okay,
you worked on.
okay.
So it's like kind of. So the thing is that they're probably gonna ask you a question different way. Like if you understand the whole concept,
Mm.
it's much easier, right? If they ask you, like which internet browser you worked on, so they're asking about internet browser application or software. So
Okay.
that's how the most of the interview question is going to be.
Mm.
Okay. So the next is key roles in software development process. So let me kind of uh, phrase what is software development process. The software development process is the process, or is the like way how we make software, right? So
Mm.
think about it. If you want to build a house, you have to have a plan, or you have to have a way to build a house, right? Same thing with
Yes.
software. You have to have a way to build the software.
Mm.
The software development process is basically when you build something, when you build that software, what are the different types of people, different types of roles, or different types of entity you will be interacting with throughout this process. So this is what actually we're gonna talk about in this slide. Key roles in software development process. So the first is stakeholder. So this is also a you guys also need to understand stakeholder and clients, because during that interview or whenever you will get requirement from your from your different recruitment agencies or companies, they're probably gonna tell you that you'll be working for clients or you'll be working for stakeholders. So you need to know what is stakeholders, right?
So they're same basically, right?
What's that?
Stakeholders and clients are same, right?
Yes, they're same.
Okay.
So, but they can call it different. Sometimes they call it stakeholders,
Different,
sometimes they call it
yes.
clients.
Okay.
Stakeholders, think that way. I mean, I always bring the example of building a house, right?
Yes.
Stakeholders. So stakeholder means who is the client. So let's say if you're buying a house,
Mhm.
okay, buying or what? If you're making a house, right?
Mhm.
Building a house or something. So who is who is like, let's say the builder, right? So builder is building a house for you. So
Mhm.
for them, who is their client? Is going to be you, right? Because
Yes.
you are the one who is building the house, or who are giving them money to
Mhm.
build the house, right? So
Mhm.
same thing in software development process. There is a client or there is some other persons or entity, who are giving money to some company or some development team or some implementation team to build their softwares. In this case, those people called stakeholders or client, whoever is giving money, right? It can be giving money. It can be they can do it by giving money, or it can be they are the one who is kind of saying, okay, for our business model, we need to build this, or we need to have something that will work like XYZ or something.
Mhm.
So they are the one who will kind of initiate the whole process.
Okay.
It makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. The next is project manager. Project manager is somebody who is going to oversee the entire project. So let's go back to our building house example. So let's say the builders start building the house. The builder will probably appoint a person, or will pick a person who is going to oversee the whole building process, right? So that
Yes.
person is going to make sure that the building is kind of meeting proper coding standard, or building code, or whether it gets some sort of permission from city or state. He will make sure that everything else is also put in place. He'll basically oversee that, oversee the entire thing, to make sure that how this is built properly and without having any issue. The same thing, the project software development process, this person is going to oversee the entire thing. So let's say if somebody said that you'll have to work with project manager. So now you know what project manager is, right? You basically have to kind of tell project manager that what is your status of work. So if you're testing something, then if the project manager said that can you give me, or can you tell me what is the status of your work, then you have to say, okay, maybe today I finish XYZ, maybe I need another 3 days or 4 days to complete my work, or something like that, right? So that project manager may can ask you some of those questions, and he or she has absolutely right to ask those questions. So that's the person who's going to oversee the project. Any question?
No.
So I mean, if I'm speaking fast, let me know. I can slow it down a little bit. And as I said, you guys can ask me in Bengali, no problem. I just want to make sure that you guys understand what I'm kind of going over.
Okay. Okay.
So the next is business engineer or business analyst. Okay. So as you know, engineer and kind of analyst are kind of same thing in this example. So business engineer is basically who is going to provide specification to the software. So let's say you're building the house, right? So you have everybody. So now there will be one person, let's call architect, or let's call engineer, or whatever you can call. So that person is going to tell, or going to say how that house need to build, what should be the dimension of the house, what should be the height, length. He will provide those information. He will start gathering those information either by talking to the client, in this case the person who is building the house, right? You'll go and ask him how many bedroom you want, how many bathroom you want, right? He will be gathering those information from the client. Okay. So in this case, this business engineer going to talk to who? Stakeholders, right? Because they are the one who is saying, okay, I need to have this. They will go back and ask them, okay, since you said that you want to build a software, give me some specification. What do you need? What kind of application you need? Do you want to make your applications which can run only on Safari browser or only on Internet Explorer browser? So they will gather some specific information. Make sense? So it's just kind of example. It can be like, other things. They will talk about maybe a specific scenario or what is the business usage of whatever stakeholder is building. So they will kind of talk about those things as well.
So we can say that he or she will be a software engineer or software analyst, right?
I would not say that business engineer and software engineer is totally different thing. Business engineer is the person who is gathering the requirement.
Okay.
Who is actually reaching out to the stakeholders and collecting the requirements, saying, okay, I need to have this, this, this. They will just write down everything, or they will clarify those information from the stakeholders, because in many cases, stakeholders probably give you half information. They're probably gonna say, I need to have a house with 3 rooms or 3
Okay.
bedrooms. Like they may not
He
gonna
gonna design the process, right?
he is not going to design the process, but he will gather the information that is needed to design the process.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
kind of
So
ask who is going to
he will collect the details, or you can, I mean,
yes, he will
Okay.
exactly. He will collect the information.
okay.
All those information. So in this case, what I was telling you, that if the stakeholder is saying that I need to have 3 bedrooms in my house,
Mhm.
but if the stakeholder or if the guy never said that the dimension of the room, how big is the room is going to be, he didn't tell those information, right? So the business engineer will be gathering those information. Will be going and asking, okay, you said 3 bedroom. You didn't tell me how long the bedroom is going to be.
Okay.
Mhm.
So he's going to gather those information, right?
Yes.
So that's what his role. He's not going to design anything. He's just kind of gathering all the information that is
Information.
needed to design. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. The next is system analyst. So most of the time, I think in the interview, like a lot of people get confused with the role of business engineer or business analyst and system analyst. Okay, most of the time people get confused. So system analyst think that way. System analyst is more like technical person. Okay, business analyst will tell you, okay, stakeholder said that the room has to be only 10 feet by 12 feet, right? That's what stakeholder tell me, and that's what business analyst is telling the system analyst, that okay, so they told me that it has to be only 10 by 12 feet, but the system analyst is the technical person, or he's more knowledgeable about the system, or about let's say in this case about architecture or about the room dimension. He's more knowledgeable about that. So system analyst in this case probably gonna ask, okay, since he said that 10 feet by 12 feet, so we know that each 1 feet equals 12 inch, right? So he knows the information. So let's say if it's 10 feet, that means 10 times 12, it should be 120 inch. So he will know more detailed information about this type of calculation, right? It's just kind of example. So the system analyst basically know which environment, which database, which type of operating system, whatever the client is requesting, will be more applicable. So he is very technical type of person who can give you more technical details, or add more technical details to the requirement. Okay, so that's the role of system analyst. Does it make sense or clear?
It's not clear. It's a little confusing in between this.
Okay, yeah, because it is confusing, to be honest, because most of the people get confused. So think that way. And business analyst is non-technical person. When I say non-technical, what does it mean? Non-technical means he does not know anything about the software. He does not know how the software
He just
should
gathers the
be.
information, right?
Yeah, he's a business person. Business means I know only how this thing should work. I know it should work like this. When I click on the button, it should just the light should be on. That's what he knows.
Okay.
Business engineer, he gets those information from the stakeholder, and that's what he knows. But he does not understand the internal mechanism.
Okay.
Like when he's turn on the switch, what happened inside or what happened underneath, to turn on the light. He does not know that. That
So
information.
the technical thing will start from the system analyst, right?
Exactly, you
Okay.
got it. So the technical part start from system analyst. So system analyst basically gather the information from business
Business engineer.
analyst, business engineer, business analyst, and he will add more technical information. Okay. So another thing, I mean, I'm gonna cover in the next, I think next session too. But think that a business engineer or business analyst will write business requirement documentation. So this is a very crucial thing. Business requirement documentation will be written by business analyst. So business requirement documentation will contain what? The requirement that stakeholder gave them, right? A system analyst will write system requirement specification. So he will write the system requirement specification based on what? Based on
Based on
Business
business
analyst.
exactly based on whatever this guy gave him. You see that how kind of connecting those roles are, they are kind of connected to each other. But the entire process, this guy PM, he is kind of overseeing everybody. He's kind of overseeing whether this guy is doing the work correctly or not. This guy is doing the work correctly or not. He's kind of overseeing everything. He's involved throughout the entire process. He's just kind of like a manager, right? His name is project manager, means he's managing the entire things.
Or we can say a supervisor, right?
Yes, supervisor, manager,
Yeah, I mean,
boss, whatever you can say.
yes. Okay.
So yeah, so that's the system analyst role. So are you guys clear? The system analyst and business analyst.
I mean, can you please just tell us who is a system analyst in just one or two sentences, so we can easily understand that.
So system analyst is the person who is going to define system requirement of the software. Period. That's gonna be good enough interview answer if somebody asks you. But to know more detail, like what is system analyst, what his role, then you may have to like talk about those things like I just said, right?
Okay.
He's going to like get the requirement from BR, like the business analyst, and add more technical information to it based on what? Based on some specification, based on of his knowledge, right? Because he knows more technical stuff.
Yes.
Any question?
No.
Suppose by clear?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So another thing I didn't mention, those topic that I'm kind of going over after the session, I would highly recommend you to Google, go to online, do some research, right? Because whatever I just said is my word, but when you do some research, when you read some other places, and then it will be more clear to you, or then you probably can write some notes saying like, okay, based on what I know from the session and based on what I found after the research, that's the definition of this. Correct? So that's why I always tell people in my last speech, I always tell them after the session, your first thing would be going over the lecture notes, try to understand, and if you're not sure, maybe look into more like in online. In online, there are like multiple or plenty of information. Okay. The next is developer. So developer, you probably know everybody, like you probably know what his role. He's the one who is going to what? Design or develop the system. Yeah, software, system, application. He's the one who is just kind of, you can call him like work B. Work B is the like who is going to make it happen. Those people actually like giving all the information. Those people actually provide him whatever he needed to develop the software, right? This is the one actually gonna start coding it, right? We kind of know the programming language, right? He's the one actually going to design the application, design the software, and write programming language or write some code. So the developer will be doing that. Make sense? Is very, I mean, developer role is very clear. He's the one actually make it happen. Okay.
Yes.
So the next is your stuff, your role. So you see that out of 7 or 8, our role is also crucial, like tester or quality assurance analyst. So this is like where you will be like perform your job function, right? So in many companies, the developer will build something based on what? The developer will build something based on what? Based on whatever this guy provided and this guy provided, right? He will build the system based on BRD or business requirement documentation and SRS or system requirement specification. That's the two input this guy get. He will building the software based on those two piece of information or those two piece of documents provided by those two people, correct? Your role will be making sure whether this guy he build or create the software based on these two guys input. That's what you have to make sure, nothing else. This is another thing you guys will be like doing more sort of like thorough testing. Thorough testing means you will be looking at the requirement, you'll be looking at this requirement and this requirement, and you'll try to analyze, thinking, okay, whether those information are good enough.
Okay.
If those are good enough, then you'll be start performing your testing. So again, let's go back to your my very initial example, that message, right? If
Mhm.
you know if some of your friend going to send you text message and you're supposed to receive a notification, that's what you should expect. So those information, who will be providing you that? It will be coming from those two places. Those business analysts, BA and SA, they are the one who will be giving you that information. You see, so do you need to know this programming language? No, right? Because
No.
you are
No.
given those information by those two people. I mean, they didn't even write the programming code when they define those information. Right? They just give you like, okay, I need to have something which will do X, Y, Z. So if those doesn't work when you test something, then you can tell your developer, hey man, what did you do? I mean, based on this information, I was expecting I should receive some sort of notification when my friend is going to send me text message. But I did not receive that. So maybe there's something you need to look into your code and tell me whether it is working or not. So that's how your role going to be. Does it make it clear?
Yeah.
So very crucial thing. I mean, if somebody asks you, so what is your role? What are you gonna do? That's what you have to say. Well, I'll be like performing my testing based on the information I receive from business analyst, system analyst, and I'll be making sure the developer's work is kind of complete and it is being done based on those two documents. That's what I have to make sure.
Okay.
Simple. And the last but not least, this is called UAT tester, right? So and this is also a little confusing. It is more like another level of testing after your test. So UAT is basically business testing, right? So most of the companies, based on my experience or based on what I have seen so far, most of the companies, those business engineer do this type of work, UAT testing, because they're the one who knows what they should be expecting. They're the final person who will be telling, okay, this is something working based on what I gave them, right? So there, it also calls sometimes you also call like business initiated testing or UAT testing. Like many companies, they also hire like another group of people, another testing people who will be doing like UAT testing. Just keep that in mind. Those two roles are 95% same.
Okay.
I would say not 95, maybe let's say like maybe let's say like 80% same. But this role will require some additional work or additional documentation, but this role does not require more documentation. It's just more like doing extra layer of testing after the QA folks finish their testing. Making sure that it's working fine or it's working based on the QA person, whatever they perform. So that's what they do. It's called user acceptance testing. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, if you kind of understand what I have gone so far, you did a lot today, because that's something that most of the time many people don't get it. They kind of confuse themselves, like why I'm doing that, what is the reason of doing that. It kind of sums up everything here. Okay, so
So
let's
I
yeah.
think shortly we can say that a stakeholder will, as you said, then who will initiate the program, or the development or software, I mean, making the software. And then the project manager will, supervise the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And then a business analyst or business engineer will collect the information from the stakeholder. And the system analyst will do all the technical works to give it to the developer. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, is
Yep.
it is it okay so far? And the
Yeah,
developer
yeah.
will make, yeah, the developer will make the application or software based on the information that he or she will get from the system analyst
Mm-hmm.
and from the business engineer. And after he is making the product or software, he will
Mm-hmm.
just give it to the QA. So the QA will test the application based on the information that the QA will get from the business analyst and from the system analyst, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then we'll go to the UAT, I mean,
Yep.
user acceptance tester. Okay.
Exactly.
Got
If you just say the way you just said,
it. Mhm.
that's more than good enough. And most of the time, people cannot able to say that because they kind of mixed up with those different rules. But if you kind of think that a story, right?
Yes.
I always tell people whenever anybody asks you an interview question, always think about in a story. Always try to think about building a house or thinking about driving a car. If you think about those stories, the information will flow from your mouth. It's very easy. You don't have to memorize it. You just need to know those words. And if you kind of follow this concept, you can do very well in interview. And interview would be very like enjoying for you.
Okay.
So yes. Any question?
No.
No.
Shabuz bhai, বুঝছেন সবকিছু?
জি ভাই।
Okay. Yeah, I mean you can ask me question. I mean it's fine. Um, okay, so the key domains in application development area. I think I kind of touched base a little bit before, so there's nothing else for me to kind of go over. The healthcare is basically insurance company. This can be home loan, auto loan. Finance, this can be banking company. Bank of America, Chase. Mortgage, home equity mortgage is the Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. Those are the two mortgage company out there. Telecom, Verizon, AT&T. Aviation is another domain, but it covers Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines. Retail, Gap, Macy's, Walmart. E-commerce, Amazon, Shopify. And defense, just kind of think about homeland security. So any project you get from homeland security is probably a defense domain.
Yes.
Any question?
No.
Commerce means online shopping, whatever
Yes,
online.
exactly.
Okay.
It can be. So yeah, I mean, e-commerce is whatever you can do in online. But in in Macy's you also can shop in online, right?
Online.
So the Macy's also can be considered as e-commerce domain.
Mm.
Okay, so all those things. I mean, nowadays retail domain
Yeah.
is e-commerce. All of them have online shopping capability.
So I mean, e-commerce businesses, the business doesn't have any physical location or something like that.
No, I mean it can have physical location, but they also provide their service via online.
Okay, okay.
That's
So
what the
that is
difference.
Macy's and Walmart and Gap and all,
Yeah,
right?
Macy's. Yeah, they also you can also buy stuff in online from Macy's.
Okay.
Okay, so
Another
this is more
question.
like what is software testing? So this is more like whatever I covered before. So this is like in a book definition. The software testing is the process of creating, implementing, and evaluating test. So after the developer finish their work, you have to create some specific thing, create some documentation, and you also have to implement whatever you said in the documentation as part of your work. And then evaluating test means whenever you perform your test, you have to make sure that whether it is meeting your expectation or not. So that's the process. This the whole those three words kind of cover what is your role going to be. You are going to be creating some documentation, and based on the documentation, you'll be implementing some of those things that you talk about in your documentation. And then evaluating means you're gonna reviewing your testing result. Make sense?
Mhm.
But if you do some research in online, you'll find other definition as well. Just kind of get or just kind of like say whatever is more understandable by you. So then is
So we don't
important.
really have to, whenever we'll go for interview, then we don't really have to tell them whatever we're learning from here. I mean, if we can say it in our own words,
That
that
will
should be
be
good, right?
more than perfect. That will be, that's what I tell people. Don't memorize anything, because
Yeah.
because I've been taking some interviews in my company, or like I'm taking like some candidates interview in my company. Like I took like 6 or 7 last few weeks. People come here by memorizing questions, memorizing answer. That doesn't work, because if I say something out of those box, you're probably gonna stuck. So if you able to like understand and kind of tell from your own words, that kind of impresses the hiring managers or the hiring people. They'll say, okay, that person probably know. That's why he was able to answer that. So always use your own words. Don't even shuffle around or memorize any of those questions. So any of those answers. So this is just more like for your understanding standpoint. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So the next is testing as follows. So why you are doing that? To discover defect, avoid user detecting problems. So discover defect. Defect, you guys know the defect, right? Defect
Yeah.
is
Default
issue,
problem. We can say problem or
problems, issue. They
issue.
also call it bug. You know,
Oh, yes.
also call it bug, defect. So it can be called in many different things. So
Okay.
we are doing it to discover bug or defect, to
Mhm.
avoid detecting problems, avoid user detecting problems. So in this case, user means the end user. So whoever that software is going to build for. So if you, let's say, like if you build a software and your user is going to be like all those people
Mhm.
who actually goes in online and do shopping, let's say Amazon, right? You build
Mhm.
some sort of website, and now when you finish your work, when you kind of launch that website, now all those online customers going to go to your website and start doing shopping. So your end user is going to be all those people who is making those, like who is buying stuff, right?
Okay.
So why you are doing that? To avoid finding issues, so they don't have to
There is
find
a
it.
small catch. I think when you said avoids user detecting problems, I thought the user is the stakeholder, but they are different.
No, they're different, because
Yeah.
the stakeholder is basically like, let's say I have a lot of money. I want
Mhm.
to open some website or like create
Yes.
some website. I don't want to go to my website and buy
No,
stuff.
I know, I know.
So that's a user means like, whoever this product is intended for. Make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. That makes sense.
Okay. Um, Prove that the software has no faults and helps to stay in business. To make sure there's no issue in the software. So if there is no issue, that means the business will grow or the business will have no impact. If you have some faulty software, then you probably gonna have it cause some issues in the business, right? Because business may gonna have some incorrect things or incorrect stuff in their process, so it's gonna cause some issues. You're also gonna, and the reason we're doing is avoid being sued by customer. And let's say you place something in online, you place $10 product order, but for some reason that number get increased to 2500 or some other odd number, right? So
Mhm.
in the interface or in the website, it shows $10, but in the backend or in the programming, there is some sort of faulty logic or there's some sort of issue in the code that makes that $10 to increase to $2500. In that case, customer can come back say, hey, I just saw that it's a $10, but you charge me 2500. Why is that? He can sue them. So the reason we are doing that to make sure that those things never happen.
Yes.
To ensure that product work as expected, to make sure it is working as per business requirement. Detects defects early, which helps in reducing the cost of defect fixing. So if you find some issue, let's say very early stage, it will save a lot of your time to fix the issue. So let me give you an example. So let's say you bought some used car, right? You bought a used car, and after you bought the used car, you saw that there's some issue in the brake or something, right? You actually like replace the brake or fix the brake. But if you If you think that, okay, I'll fix the brake later, let's kind of drive it for another couple of weeks or 3 months, who knows. And all the time you see that, it caused some sort of like dominoes effect. The brake didn't work, there's some other things start also breaking apart, and sometimes it never works, and it also can put your life on risk, right? So once you find some faulty thing ahead of time, you can kind of fix it. You can kind of like, make sure that this thing does not impact other things, right? So this is the only reason we also do the software testing. So this is more like, kind of general terms. So if somebody asks you why you have to do that, maybe you can kind of say a few of those bullet points. That will be like, um, more than good enough for them to understand. Any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay, so let's go to the why is testing. So again, it just kind of sums up in here, right?
Okay.
Why is testing?
Yeah.
So we need to check everything and anything we produce because things can always go wrong. Some mistakes come from bad assumption and blind spot. Means sometimes the developer did not consider, or maybe system analyst or business engineer did not consider something that should have been considered, because people make mistakes, right? They did not consider that, but during your testing you found that, right? So
Mhm.
it can be a requirement issue. Requirement issue means this business engineer did not define the requirement, but it is a critical thing. Means like if they don't address that issue, the business can have a lot of impact, right? So the reason we are doing this testing to find those some sort of like, blind spot, or find those some sort of those like, misinformation. So whenever that product goes live, it will not impact the business overall. Make sense?
Mhm.
To point out the defects and errors that were made. So let's say the developer made some mistakes, so he did not realize that, because developer only do some very very basic testing. They don't do thorough testing.
Okay.
Equal unit testing, I'll kind of cover later. So developer did not do thorough testing, so because of that they probably can make mistakes, right? So we as a QA analyst, we going to make sure that that particular issue is kind of addressed and fixed, because we kind of help them to find that problem. Make sense?
Yes.
And the last is make sure that customer reliability and their satisfaction in the application. So customer means like end user, right? So
Yes.
if the end user kind of does not feel comfortable buying the stuff from your website, that means your website has some sort of major issues. It can be security issue, it can be defect, it can be who knows what, right? So when you do the software testing, you make sure that there is no defect, there is no other issues, and whoever going to use your website, he or she can able to perform that action without thinking about some other things, right? It will work perfectly. So that's the only reason you have to perform the testing. Okay, so any question?
No.
No.
All right, what is the next?
So what is software testing? Why is software testing, and what is the necessity of software testing? Is it's quite the same, right?
Yes, it's kind of same. The reason I kind of put them together, because as I said, most people get confused. So if
Mm-hmm.
I ask you what is the necessity, they're not gonna able to think that, why is testing? I mean, why we have to test something and what is the reason? So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of cover everything. I mean, if you understand this thing, you probably can
Mm-hmm.
able to answer remaining two things here.
Okay. Okay.
What is the necessity? Basically, it is important to ensure the quality of the product, and this is more like, okay, I know why I put them there. It is more like interview type of question,
Mm-hmm.
because they probably can ask you like, why we have to do this testing, what is the significance of this testing, why you have to do that. So then you have to maybe kind of talk about a couple of bullet points. So it is important to ensure the quality of the product. The quality means there is no defect, there is no issue, nothing is there. It's pristine, it's good and working condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
The quality product delivered to the customer helps in gaining their confidence. Means good product means good customer service. Testing is necessary to ensure clients will get high quality of products or software application that requires lower maintenance cost, functional, consistent, and reliable. So maintenance cost is like new thing for you guys. So think that way. So if we find some issue ahead of time, we can able to fix it, right? We can able to fix it without without spending a lot of money, correct? So if we don't test properly and if we find stuff very late in the game, let's say 5 months after the website is launched, right? If we find that time there's some sort of major issue, it will cost a lot of time or a lot of money also. Because if they want to fix something after it goes live or after it gets launched, first thing they have to do, they have to fix it. That means they have to make sure whatever the customer has been doing so far, those are working as fine. Plus, whatever fixes they're putting in place is also working as expected. They also have to maybe turn down that website for a couple of hours. It also can cause some business impact because now the customer cannot able to place the order in that 2 hours, right? So there is some sort of lot of cost associated to it. But if you do properly testing, it will lower your maintenance cost. The maintenance cost means whatever cost is needed to run the website or operate the website. Same thing as maintenance cost for your car.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other costs there, right?
Yes.
So if you maintain your car properly, you won't have to worry about engine issue or transmission issue, right? Same thing with the website. If you maintain it properly, if you make sure that nothing get broken or nothing is out there that can cause business issue, that means you are saving money.
Mm-hmm.
Any question?
Yeah.
The last case, testing is required for an effective performance of software application or product. So performance means if you have a good working application, it will also deliver high performance. Means 80% of the time customer can able to log into the website without the issue, right? Like how many of you have seen that whenever you try to log in, it kind of show that page not found or something is not working. You probably can see it very rarely, but it can happen when there is some sort of maintenance going on to the website. Like if somebody's turn down the website or put it down the website for some sort of maintenance work, that means the customer cannot log in. But with testing, you make sure that everything is working smoothly, and that means you can able to your website can able to perform as highly efficient as possible. So that's the another reason why you have to perform the testing. So again, as I said before, if you understand this one, you probably can answer those two questions as well. All right, so let's kind of focus on who does the testing. So most often whenever somebody said that uh, testing is QA's work, QA means our work, right? That's what most of the people say, but it is not true all the time. Testing can happen throughout the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So BA and SA, so those are the one who business analyst and what system analyst. So they are the one actually going to test the requirement. So requirement testing is not a physical testing or software testing. It's more like they are making sure all those different scenarios or all those different permutation or different combination has been addressed, right? So they will kind of ask themselves, okay, if this thing does this, is it gonna cause some other issues to the other things? They will probably do some sort of investigative questioning. Okay, so this called requirement testing. So that is performed by BNSA. Make sense?
Yes.
And the software developer engineer, they will also doing their testing. It called unit testing. Means let's say if you build something, you want to make sure that it is working correctly. Let's say you kind of join something, right? You kind of join two different rope or wire, so you kind of make sure that these two things are tied together and kind of firm, right? They will try to make sure that it's kind of working fine. So this called unit testing. Whenever they coded something, they will just ask themselves, they will just kind of see the code and see, okay, this code is look like gonna work fine, and he will just do basic testing. Basic means he's not gonna run through his entire codes. He's probably gonna run through some chunk of code that he wrote. That called unit testing. Make sense?
Yeah.
So unit testing is also called code-based testing. Code-based mean um, he will be only testing based on his code. If the code has some sort of logic, like say if else logic, like if this if x equal 25, then print confirm. If x equal less than 25, print not confirm. You see, those are like
That
kind
means
of,
that means the developer will run his code to see that if it's working.
yeah, it's basic. He will just run his
Yeah.
chunk of code compiler using that compiler. He will just run that portion whatever he wrote. He's not gonna run other things that he wrote a couple of weeks ago or
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Okay, so that's called unit testing.
Oh yeah, this is where it says initial testing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the next is our rule: software tester and quality assurance analyst perform full-blown system testing. System testing means whatever Bhadu was saying, like to test the entire system. So
Okay.
let's say you build a website, right? So that website may have many different options, but since you build from ground up, you have to make sure all those options are working fine. Correct?
Okay.
You'll have to make sure that when somebody click on any product, it will take them to that product page, right? You'll also
Mhm.
have to make sure when somebody click on checkout, it will take out to the checkout page. You see, there's a lot of interconnection between different pages or different sites, right? So as an QA analyst, you also have to make sure that when somebody perform those actions, it kind of works as it expected. Make sense?
Yes.
So they're the one who does full blown testing. It's also called end to end.
It's like the page open, then what's we're gonna make you all codes on the section. It says open and maximize, minimize, then it's gonna be closed like that.
Um, it can be like that, but in this example, what I'm trying to show that if something has some dependency, right? So let's say if you want to buy a product, if you want to buy something in online, first thing what do? You find that product or you search that product first, right? You search it, then you click add to the cart, add to the cart or add to your
Oh,
shopping
okay,
cart,
okay.
right? You click on it, then it will take you to the different page. So there's some dependency, there is a lot of connections when this thing happen. You have to make sure that end to end, from beginning to end, when a user or when a customer buy products, he has to go, like the application is able to support that all actions without causing any issue. That called end to end. There's many other scenarios or um many other combination you can think of, but just kind of basic thing is making sure that when this thing, when it goes live, the entire process is working as a whole system. It's called system testing.
So why can't you say start to end?
Start to end means think that way. I mean, when something is built, if you
Mm.
build a house, let me
Mm.
let's go back to the house example. If you build a house as a client, as a homeowner, what are you gonna go? You're gonna go and check whether when you turn on switch on something, whether the light is turning on or not. You're gonna go and check every single outlet, every single place, right? You're gonna make sure that heat is running fine. You're gonna make sure that there is a wiring is fine. You will make sure everything is fine
Mm.
as a whole package, not just one thing. You're not gonna go to one room, you're gonna just turn on the light and you see, okay, my entire house is working fine. No, you're not gonna do that. You will check every single thing, every single thing end to end, from entering to the house to the exiting to the house. Every single thing
Mm.
that they build is working. So that's why it's called end to end. You know. So as a software, I mean, you also have to make sure that whenever something is built, because whatever they build, there is some sort of business application, right? They probably have some reason to build it. So you have to make sure that there is some scenario, there is a way you can get to that point, so you can able to test it. Make sense?
Yes.
So you call end-to-end. Yeah, don't get confused with the end-to-end. This is just kind of normal terminology. Most of the people say system testing means end-to-end. Whenever you say end-to-end means like everything is working as a package.
Okay.
Hmm.
And the last is end user, means acceptance testing, means like business testing. Whenever business perform any sort of testing is called acceptance testing.
So business testing is UAT or
Yeah, I mean sometimes business does that, sometimes UAT tester they also do it. It depends, it varies from company to company, right? They also have some UAT tester who kind of perform that testing as well. But in many company, business client or business engineer, they also perform the UAT testing.
oh you already told us that sometimes the business engineer or business
Yeah,
analyst
yeah.
will do that.
They
Yes.
also can perform. So that's why it also called business and end user.
Okay.
Mm.
Any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay. So the next is when to start testing. So this is kind of depends on the methodology, which I'll be kind of covering maybe next couple of session. It kind of depends on that. So this answer may vary. Okay, but if you think that kind of general sense, you have to think about like okay, so if something is built, right, the developer finish building stuff, then I can start doing the physical testing, right? You can able to start performing your test. You can able to go to the website and click here there and able to perform the testing. This is just general sense, right?
Mm.
But think that way. But there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of prep work you have to do before you start doing the testing. That's also part of your testing, right? For example, if you want to test somebody, if you want to test whether you can buy a product in a website or not, first you need to make sure that product exists in the website. So before you do any testing, you have to make sure that this product is available in the website or available in their site, right? So
Mm.
you kind of go there and able to purchase it. So this is kind of prep work. You just kind of make sure that this is there. You just do some research, or you can add some data in the backend table to make sure that product is also appearing in the website. So this is like more like kind of advanced type of like prep work. So these also part of your testing, right? You are doing prep work. So the formal testing is conducted in the testing phase, means whenever the developer finish their work, you can start performing your testing. And the next is testing is also performed at the end of every increment and iteration of the whole application is tested at the end. So I would not really kind of explain you anything now because I think when I'll go over SDLC life cycle, then probably I can able to explain more better what is that means. Because every phase itself, as a QA analyst, you can do some sort of testing. Okay, so and in this SDLC phase, there are a bunch of phases, and each phases there will be some sort of work that you can able to perform. So I will be going over that in my next session or maybe a couple of sessions later. So yeah, just hold your thought that for now. And during the requirement gathering phase, so when the business analyst or system analyst gather the requirement as a QA analyst, you may also can take part or you may also can involve in that requirement gathering process. So let's kind of ask you a general question. So why do you think QA should involve in the requirement gathering process? What do you guys think?
Because you will be the one who will make sure that the requirements match with the product that will be made by the developer, I think.
Yes, and as a QA analyst, you also can think about different scenarios or different way of testing. Because
Mhm.
business analysts and system analysts, they will only consider the happy path testing. Happy path means like whatever the customer will do, whatever a user most likely perform. Like 90% of the time, what user will perform. So those kind of scenarios or those kind of like things the business analyst and system analyst will consider. Like they may not gonna consider remaining 10%. So let's say if some customer like start buying stuff, right? He probably gonna cancel his order at the last moment, and then he repurchase that again. You see, there's like some sort of like canceling and then repurchasing stuff involved in it. That does not happen most of the time, but when QA analysts involved, that they can ask those questions. Hey, okay, I see that you said like a customer can only place the order if they find a product in the website. But what happens if they cancel the order and then they repurchase it again? How your application or how your software should work? So those type of like weird type of scenario, QA can bring it up, right? So that's why they have to be in that meeting. Okay. So the next actually is when to stop testing, right? So the basic answer is very general answer is whenever testing is complete, that's when you're gonna stop your testing, right? That's
Yes.
short answer. When to stop. When it is finished, we're gonna stop. But
Right.
in QS term, there is some other additional things that you have to also consider. That when you will complete your test case execution. So don't worry about this thing now. There's something will come in following session. Test case execution is part of your role that you're gonna perform when you start performing your testing. And the completion of functional and code coverage to a certain point means this means that when bunch of features or bunch of like requirement that you tested are kind of completed. When you complete 80% or 90% of those new codes or new requirement, then when you're gonna stop your testing. That's another way of
What
thinking
is
things.
the code coverage?
Good question. So code coverage is nothing but whatever requirement or the developer, whenever developer codes something, he coded based on the requirement, right?
Mhm.
So whenever developer coded based on the requirement, you have to only test that particular portion. So code coverage basically making sure the requirement is covered for that particular piece. Okay.
Oh, so this has a connection with the information that the analyst will get from the business
Yeah,
analyst and
yeah,
system
yeah,
analyst,
of
right?
course, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, completion of function and code coverage means whenever developer finish their coding, you just gonna test that particular piece of software and make sure it's working or not. When this thing
Okay.
will finish, you also can say, okay, my testing is finished. It's
Okay.
like different way of saying that.
Mhm.
And another is bug rates fall below a certain level. So bug means defect, right?
Defects. Yeah.
So when you build a new website, there are probably hundreds of defects, right? You cannot fix all the defect. There is some sort of high priority defect or high severity or very critical defect that they need to fix. But there should be some sort of low priority. Low priority means maybe some sort of spelling mistake, right? There's
Mm.
very low priority, and many times customer may not gonna see that.
Yes.
So at that time, you're gonna consider like, okay, maybe out of 100 defect, 90 of our critical defect is passed or critical defect is fixed. So only 10% remain, and out of those 10%, 9% are low priority defect. Low means very low. So at that time, they probably can say like, okay, let's kind of conclude our testing, and maybe we can retest those fix in our next cycle. Next cycle means whenever they're gonna make additional changes to their application, they probably can add those remaining 10% as part of their testing.
So
Make
we
sense?
can say, I mean, there is two types of bugs. One is high priority, as you said,
Uh-huh.
and one is low priority.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So we will have to make sure that the high priority bugs gets fixed,
Mm-hmm.
and we will have to make sure that we identify the low priority bugs as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. The next is management decision. So management decision, sometimes management will say, okay, I think we have done enough testing and I think there is not too many defects out there. Let's kind of conclude our testing. Sometimes they can say that, right? So at that point, management may gonna decide, okay, let's kind of like finish the testing and let's move on to the next phase. And they're gonna start pushing that code, or they're gonna start releasing that software to the production. That's also gonna happen. I mean, sometimes management will say, okay, enough of the testing, let's kind of move forward. That's when the testing can finish.
Okay.
Make sense so far?
Yes.
Shabuz bhai, you are very quiet.
ভাই
বুঝছেন
জি
বুঝছেন
ভাই
সবকিছু কোশ্চেন হলে বলতে পারেন এনি টাইম নো প্রবলেম okay okay so I think next 1 2 3 4 5 yeah I'll try to cover maybe next two slide because this slide I mean this session has a lot of information so um okay so this is more like interview type of question. What is software quality? I remember that when I was taking my first interview, first interview, my hiring manager was asking me this question: what is software quality and what is software quality control? So this is kind of very common question, interview question. The hiring manager can ask you. So that's why I kind of put it here. So what is software quality? Software quality is to ensure that product is bug free, delivered on time, within budget, meets requirement and expectation, and is maintainable. So in this case, quality means characteristic, right? Like all those good things a software can have. So if you think that bug free means like there's no issue, there's nothing, um, there's no problem in this software. Delivered on time means whenever they build that software, it was delivered within time. If they gave 3 months to finish building the software, they were able to finish building and testing the software within 3 months. That means a good quality software is there. It's a good characteristic of the software. And then meets requirement means whatever the stakeholder defined is also matching their expectation. And is maintainable means like it's easy to maintain. It's not complicated thing. So when those things add together, you can call this is a software, good quality software, or it's also called software quality.
So as you said earlier, a low maintenance cost or something like that, to make
Yeah.
sure that the maintenance cost doesn't go up. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. You can also add that. This is very good information. You can low maintenance cost is also good quality software.
Mhm.
Mhm. So another way of saying it, I think this is more like kind of inclusive definition. I think those two definition can go along together. And another way of saying like set of activities for ensuring quality in the software products. So software quality control is limited to the review and testing phases of the software development lifecycle. I would not really worry too much about it because this is something I'm going to cover next session, but just focus on this one here. What is software quality is make sure that it's bug free, delivered on time, and meets requirement and expectation. Okay. So anything you see with the software development lifecycle, this is something that we have, I think, a separate topic, I guess. Let me see. Uh, yeah, we have separate topic for it, so I can discuss at that time.
Okay.
Then quality control. So activities that ensure that verification of a developed software with respect to documented in the requirement. So this is a book definition. So another way of saying that when you test something, right, you kind of test based on what requirement. It can be business requirement, it can be system requirement. Business requirement will come from business analyst, system requirement will come from system analyst,
System analysis.
right? The
Mhm.
quality control is make sure is that that particular software is matching whatever is said in business uh, requirement documentation and system requirement documentation. When it is matching, you make sure that that is meeting your quality control standard.
Mhm.
Okay. So the activities that ensure. So activities means what? All those software testing activities, writing documentation, implementing those things, and then testing, right? When those things meeting, that means like you are making sure it is quality control software. Okay. QC can be considered as subset of quality assurance. So subset means under the quality assurance, quality control can be also considered. I'm going to talk about what is quality assurance in a minute, but quality control is making sure that all those stuff that is out there, um, it is kind of like maintainable, or it is kind of matching their expectation. There is a quality control. um, and also it is product oriented activities. So product oriented activities means um, all those different folks which we talked about before, when all those different folks kind of involved and get together and try to finish their role or finish their product based on their job specific function. So if the system analyst job is to define the system requirement, BS job is to define the business requirement document, all these things can be part of quality control. Okay.
Yes.
And the focus is on actual testing by executing the software with an aim to identify bug or defect. So that means when you perform your particular you know testing, you kind of do it based on some information, and when you do it, you kind of find there's some sort of issue or some sort of bug, right? And you kind of find that and you tell your developer to fix that, right? As part of these activities, you are making sure the quality of the software get increased. When you find some issues, when you fix those issues, you make sure that the quality of that product or software is intact. Those also call quality control. Whatever you are doing to make your software very highly operatable, or highly qualityful, those things also call quality control. So those are like an interview type of question, and I would say maybe do some additional research if those definition is very hard for you to understand. But if you kind of say it in your own words, whatever Ali was saying, that's a good enough. You don't have to memorize those. Just use your own words, and that will be good enough. Any question?
No.
No.
Okay. What is quality assurance? So it's kind of confusing most of the time. One is software quality, one is quality control. Quality control is activity. Think that way. Software quality is characteristic. So this is a characteristic of the software. This is what?
Activities.
Activity.
Activity.
Yes. Activities to make sure it is meeting the quality. Meeting the quality or characteristic.
This is
And
quite confusing. Actually.
yeah, I mean, that's why they ask you in the interview, right? It's
Yeah.
confusing. Um, and the quality assurance is process of both.
Mhm.
Process making sure this quality or this characteristic, and also you can make sure that whatever activities you perform to make sure this is matching or meeting the characteristic. That's the whole process called quality assurance. It's kind of combination of quality control and software
Software.
quality.
Quality.
So the definition is set of activities ensure the implementation of process, procedures, standard. The standard, you can consider that you only can find the standard by performing the quality control to
Yes.
make sure it is matching or not, right?
Mhm.
In context to verification, and the verification in this case what? To making sure it is matching with the system requirement and business requirement, right?
Yes.
Of developed software and intended requirement. So all those steps, all those activities that you perform in accordance with business requirement and software requirement. This whole process is called quality assurance. Make sense? I would say maybe do some research, maybe it will be much easier. So this is the entire process of quality control and software quality. So one word, quality control means activities to verify the software is working correctly, and software quality is the characteristic of the good software. So that's
It's
how
really confusing. I mean, it's not. It's easy, but they're kind of same, and
yeah, I know.
go along with each other. So it's quite
So both are because both has quality, right?
Yes.
When you say software quality, you can think about your quality, right? My
Mhm.
quality. My quality is what? I'm a very good guy. I'm good looking. Blah blah blah. You can say that. You can. This is
So
called characteristic.
so the software quality is that means the quality of the product or software or the application, right?
Yes, and that means what? That means bug free,
Bug free,
checking
delivered on time,
requirement,
delivered and
easy,
all
low
this.
maintenance, those
Yes.
things. Yeah,
And
and the quality control is the
and
measurement.
whatever job we have, I mean, the developer have completed, we just will have to make sure that you know that has a good quality. I mean, that quality can reach up to the expectation of the what is the business analyst or system analyst, right?
Yes, I mean you can say that this is a good characteristic. That's the software quality. I mean, think those few words, buzzing word,
Mm.
bug free, stay within the
Delivered on
budget, and
time.
is low
No,
maintenance.
no mental.
Low
Mm.
maintenance. This is a software quality. It's a good quality, because it's easy
Mhm.
to manage. The quality
Mhm.
control is is a measure, right? It's a way or
Yes.
metrics to make sure whether those characteristic is present or not.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. So this is a the process. How are you gonna know whether those things are present or not by doing some sort of testing, by making sure that the the activities that you perform to make sure those are there or not. So this is called quality control. And the quality assurance is the entire process from the
Okay.
combination of implementation of process to make sure it is matching the standard or not. Those things also called quality assurance. If you look at this, you can see that a set of activities ensure the implementation of process and procedure and standard in context of verification of developed software and intended requirement. So this graph kind of sums up everything. What is the quality assurance? Okay. I know it's very confusing, and I'm not expecting you to know from this first session that you understand this, but that requires some additional research, right?
Yes,
If
yes,
you
we
do
will
some
do.
additional research, I can guarantee you that will clear up your mind. But few words, if you just think that what is software quality, few words, just try to connect those words in context of what you understand. That will be proper way of answering that question. Okay,
Okay.
I think purpose of qualification. Let me just kind of cover that real quick. Then probably next session I'll just touch what is test case. What is the reason of quality assurance? It kind of eliminate errors when they're still inexpensive to correct and improve the quality of the software. It's just kind of same thing repeated.
Yes.
Improving the process of creating software, create a mature software process. So this is kind of interview type of question. That's why I kind of put it there. But again, if you just understand what is the reason of doing that, to make sure there is no bug, to make sure we are improving the quality, to make sure we are improving the process, and create a mature means workable software. That's the whole reason of.
Or we can say, as you said earlier, that the purpose of quality assurance is, I mean, the reason why do the test, as you said, that bugs free, low maintenance, and you know, and also uh, maintenance. I mean, low. I mean, what was that? Oh, delivered on time,
Yeah,
and yeah, and those things, right? And to
yeah,
detect the bugs and eliminate errors when the errors is.
exactly. I mean, yeah, those are the good characteristic, and that's how you're gonna respond during the
Okay,
interview.
okay, okay.
I mean, the way you were saying, the way you were kind of explaining, I mean, use your own word. Because when
Yes.
I take candidates interview, if they say from the book definition, I can kind of catch it right away. But if you use your own word,
Mhm.
believe me, I mean, that's most of the time people get impressed. Yep, that guy was kind of talking from his mind. That's based on what he understands.
Mhm.
That's what works well in the interview.
Okay.
I'm not gonna cover the test case now because I know I have separate session just for the test case cover. But let me kind of quickly, and I know I'm running out of time, but let me kind of quickly go over some homework question. Okay, so after this session, you guys are gonna get access to this page. You guys know how to get into that, right? I kind of showed you. So
Can you
you're
just
gonna,
show us again some courses?
so yeah, so you're gonna log in first, right? You know how
Yes.
to log in, right?
Yes.
And then you're gonna go to the software testing,
Mhm.
go to the live software testing course.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you're gonna go to the introduction to software testing. You're gonna
Okay.
click on here, and then you'll see the topics that we covered today: quality assurance, control, test case. I'm gonna cover in next session. Project domain. So you're gonna see that. And this is your not interview, homework assignment. What is software and hardware? What is application? Name an application and describe the common function in that application. So I kind of explain you what is application, right? Software. What is software testing? I know I gave you the definition. You have to give me your definition. Okay. List 3 key responsibilities of different roles outlined in software development process. So 3 responsibilities. So those 3 roles we talk about, you have to name 3 responsibilities for each of them. Okay. And those are like, research type of question. I mean, if you do some research, we're going to discuss more about that in our next session. What is project management, phases of project? What is the difference between verification and validation? So do some research. Is very easy. Just copy and paste in Google, start reading through some of them. And before our next session start, you guys have to email me in my email address, qadimension@gmail.com. And next session, I probably gonna ask you share your screen to show me what you have put down. Okay.
Oh,
So
we have to email you the answers, right?
yes, in the Word document, write it down, email me down. So I mean, I would say use your own words. Don't just copy paste from the
No,
web.
no, no.
Yeah. So use your own word. After you read 4 or 5 different places, different articles, you can use your own words. And I know actually Shobuz Bhai has been doing good job. Actually, he sent me some sort of like picture that he was kind of start writing down everything from website, and he's writing his own words. So it's a good thing. You're gonna do some research. You do some research and add some stuff to it. It's the best way of preparing for this course.
Okay.
I think those are also good interview type of question. Also, that's why I just kind of list them together.
Okay.
So our next session is going to be on Saturday, from 10 to 11:30, I guess. So I would say every week.
So Saturday, 10 p.m. or 10 a.m.?
AM.
Okay.
I think I sent you the invite, right? I sent you some invite. Yeah, I mean the same meeting room. Meeting room would be same for all the camps. You just have to join 10 o'clock. So we'll kind of go over. But before Saturday's session, I would expect you guys kind of email me those answers.
Okay.
So I know that you guys are prepared for the next session, because without sending me those, if you don't send me those, I would say that maybe you did not work on your homework assignment. So that's why I said always try to
You
keep.
have 1 day to complete our homework. Well,
Yeah, I mean this homework is not like I'm punishing you. It's more like for me to know
no, it's good.
whether you are prepared.
It's very good system. Yeah.
It is good.
At least we're gonna research something.
Yeah,
Yes.
and before you do your homework, go over this thing also, right? Go over this lecture notes.
Mhm.
Just go over lecture notes and then do some homework. And also you're gonna see the video. You're gonna have access to the video, the same place. This is the video I captured in my last batch, so I'm gonna kind of replace that to today's recording, so you can able to kind of see it. Okay.
Okay.
All right then. So
All right.
we'll
Thank you
talk
so much.
about. Yeah, no problem. We'll talk on Saturday then. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.